Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the second episode of the story of Esther, which you will find in the Hebrew Bible or the Old Testament under the book of Esther. King Xerxes has seriously messed up. He has been arrogant. He has been extremely rude to his beautiful wife, Vashti, and has fired her from the role as queen. Once his anger has subsided, like he has a right to be angry, do you think that? No ways. Vashti was the one who was hurt. But nevertheless, we're told that once Xerxes' anger had subsided, he began to think about Vashti and about what he had done for her. Well, he had counselors who came to him and said, listen, forget Vashti. She's history. Get her out of your mind. Go in search of a new queen and find a queen among the young women of the realm. And Xerxes thinks about it and says, yeah, that's a pretty good idea. And so people are sent all around the country to find the most beautiful women and to bring them all to the court of Xerxes, where they will be trained and prepared, and then they will be, I would imagine, paraded like what happens up in Swatini once or twice or however many times a year. And that's what happens. Now, enter one of the most lovable characters in the Bible, at least in my estimation. Enter a Jew called Mordecai. I've always loved that name, Mordecai. Now, Mordecai is a guy who is in exile in Babylon, like there were hundreds of thousands of Jews in Babylon, having been brought from Jerusalem. Mordecai is looking after his uncle's child who was orphaned. And her name was Hadassah. She was also known as Esther, but she was particularly beautiful. She, as I said, was without her physical parents, and Mordecai had adopted her and had brought her up as his own daughter. And he loved Esther, or Hadassah, cherished her. He hears that the king is looking for a new queen. And he begins to think. I think Mordecai was quite a wily old guy. Well, I don't know how old he was, but I think he was pretty far-sighted. And he hatches a plan. He believes that his daughter, Esther, is pretty and lovely enough and suitable for the role of the queen of Babylon. And so he takes her along to wherever they were supposed to go, and she is noticed. She's noticed by a number of people as being a particularly striking young woman. And the head honcho, you could call the head of the vacancy committee, looking for a new queen, sees her and says, hey, come closer. And he decides that this young woman is a prime candidate for the new role. And so he bestows special favors on her. She's taken aside, and she is prepared for 12 months, given 12 months of beauty treatment. 6 months of oils of myrrh and another 6 months of perfumes and other rich oils. And at the end of 6 months, she is taken into Xerxes. Now, this is all there in the Bible. Now, this is not a thumbsuck. This is all there. It's just that we've lost touch with these stories. And Esther goes into the king, and the king looks at her, and he immediately falls in love with her and decides that she is going to be his queen. So we now have Queen Esther. One interesting thing is that Mordecai has said to her, do not tell anybody about your identity. about your Jewish background, about your Jewish nationality. And so Esther keeps quiet. So here is the strange situation of the king of Babylon, King Xerxes, married to a Jewish woman. Now that's an unusual setup, if ever there was one. And there she is, the queen of Babylon, and always just outside the palace hovers Mordecai, just listening, trying to keep his ear to the ground. You know, you can pick up an awful lot just by keeping your ears open. And that's what Mordecai spent his days doing, knowing that his daughter was the queen. That nobody knew that it was his daughter. And then one day, as Mordecai is hovering around the palace, he hears two palace officials talking, and they are angry, and they are plotting an assassination of the king. Now, what does Mordecai do? I think he realizes that if he can alert the palace to this assassination attempt, then he will score some major brownie points, or at least Queen Esther will score some major brownie points. So he gets a message into his daughter, Queen Esther, and says, listen, you tell King Xerxes that there is a plot, and these are the two people involved. Well, the plot is exposed, and the two officials are caught and are executed. And Esther is very careful to acknowledge that it is Mordecai who alerted them to the possibility of an assassination. And into the history of the reign of King Xerxes, which was a document, went the name of Mordecai, giving an account of what had happened, and that Mordecai was the hero in the whole show. So, we have a situation here where Mordecai is sort of quietly at work, quietly. The queen is in the palace. And you think, okay, now what is there to learn from that? Well, nothing specifically, I suppose, because it's part of the story, because the story builds, except that quietly, something is beginning to happen. It's almost as if, unbeknown to all the players, God is lining up a situation. Yes, it is an untidy story, but amidst all the untidiness, you get a sense that something, a pattern or something is beginning to form here. And all I would say in drawing this little devotion to a close is, remember, God moves in a mysterious way, his wonders to perform. God be with you.